In this video I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about buying a motorcycle in Vietnam. Which place you need to look for, where you can buy them, is it better to buy one, can you better rent one, and what are all the kind of paperwork that you are going to need, and what are you going to need for the border crossing. Because if you are going to buy a motorcycle in Vietnam, I will assume that you would also be using it to get across the borders, to get from Vietnam to Laos, or either from Vietnam to Cambodia, because those are options that you have on the table. My name is Harley Hoffman. I spent about 4 or 5 months in Vietnam. We even bought 2 motorbikes, one for me, one for Nick. And it was one of the best choices that we made. And why was it one of the best choices that we made? First of all, we just had the freedom that we didn't have to look for a place to rent a motorbike every time. We didn't have to leave our passport all the time. And we could just get from point A to point B very easy, and not have to look at the bus schedule and everything. What would be the reason that you would buy a motorbike and not rent a motorbike? That's a really good question that you would probably have. I will first talk about renting a motorbike. If you are going to rent a motorbike for a month, let's say 2 months, to get from north of Vietnam to central or central to south, you will be spending around the 300 USD or euros for a motorcycle for a month. And if anything happens with the motorbike, then you will be screwed. For if you damage it or anything, they will probably be off your deposit. But the possibility is that it's very easy. You can just go to a shop, tell them your plan, they would help you from step to step to get everything right, and they will really guide you with that. So that's one positive thing about it. But the negative thing is, once you're gone and you're gonna sell it, then your money is just gone. So we were in favor of buying a motorcycle, also because we wanted to cross the borders, and you need to have your own motorbike to cross the borders. Sometimes we hear that you can do it with a rental company, but most of the time you will do that in a group. So you will do it as a tour with a guide that will guide you through the process. So if you're doing it single or with a couple of friends, you are not able to do it with a rental motorbike. Also, to buy a motorbike in Vietnam is not really that expensive, to be honest. We bought 2 motorbikes. In total we spent around the 500 euros for it, and after that we also sold them for around 400 euros. So we used them for 4 to 6 months, did a little bit of maintenance here and there. Because you're in Asia, the maintenance is really cheap price, which is nice. If something breaks, you won't be spending more than 10 euros for it, so you don't have to stress about that if you're concerned about things that are breaking or a new tire. I had flat tires all the time, for an example, because I had too much weight. So you are going to Vietnam and you're going to buy a motorbike, but where can you buy a motorbike? That's a really good question, because you're not really familiar there. Well, we bought our motorbikes in Hanoi, and there are a couple places that you can visit. You have just like car dealers, that you have massive street with hundreds and hundreds of motorbikes all lined up. Personally, I would avoid these places. As we will show you in the videos, we have looked for a day for a motorbike, and with the place where you have a lot of second-hand motorbikes, it gave us the feeling that all the motorbikes were crappy, that something was wrong with them. We even tried like 4 or 5 times motorbikes, but the brakes were broken, the clumper didn't count anymore, the lighting was off, the gas indicator wasn't good anymore. Every motorbike had its issues. So how did we get our motorbike? We rented a motorbike from a shop just cruising in Hanoi. I would really recommend that guy if you are in Hanoi. We just texted him, we told him, hey man, we were looking for 2 motorbikes, can you help us with something? He showed us a couple of pictures in our within our budget, and within a week we had the motorbikes and they fixed everything. We had really good contact. Yeah, go to a rental shop would be my advice, that also sells motorbikes. They can really help you further, and really look at the Google reviews. We read a lot of reviews that people would rent out motorbikes, but after a month or after 2 weeks the motorbike would go broken. And for example, one lady needed to do 400 or 500 euros of maintenance, and she didn't really get that money back. So really look up the review that you see from what kind of person you are renting it. But back to the buying, you can look it up through Facebook. There's a huge Facebook marketplace for second-hand motorbikes. They go from 200 to 300, and the luxury ones for 400 or 500 for one. But for 250, 300 euros, you already have a really decent motorbike. So I would just recommend going for that, because if you rent it for a month, you would already spend that money. So you can either buy from the rental shops, you can buy them through the local market, or you can either buy them from Facebook. There are a lot of backpackers groups out there for people that are leaving, they need to get rid of their motorbikes. They will also sell you them for a really good price. And otherwise I would recommend stay away from the big and crowded place that has hundreds of motorbikes, and go to your local renting shop and ask what they have, what they would recommend. So if you're gonna thinking about what kind of paperwork would you need for the motorbike, it's really easy in Vietnam. There's one card, it's called the blue card, that has all the details of the motorbike on it, like the CC numbers, the license plates, and all the other details on it. On the blue cards also the original name of the owner that first bought the motorbike. So for example, someone bought a motorbike in 2010, that name from that person in 2010 will still be on there, even if the motorbike has been flipped over 6 or 7 times. That blue card always stays in the name of the owner. As a foreigner, you cannot put the motorbike on your name. So how can you prove that it's yours? Well, if you're buying a motorbike, what's really important is that you get a letter that you have bought a motorbike. It's literally a seller's agreement or a buyer's agreement that you have, that says, hey, my name is this and this and this, I bought the motorbike from this shop, here are the details of the bike, and that's the only proof you literally have that you legally bought the motorbike. So that are also the only documents that you are getting, which are the blue card and the seller's agreement. That's going to prove that you are the owner of the motorbike. So don't lose that, it's really important. Also, what about insurance? In Vietnam, as I know of, you are not legally required to have insurance, but no, if you are going to drive without insurance and something happens, they are going to charge you. Be careful for that. We had a major accident that happened to the Nick about 8 months ago. Thank God we had our travel insurance. It wasn't our fault. It was an accident from the third party that happened, but still the insurance covered all of our costs. So if you are going to drive in Vietnam, know that you're gonna need to have at least a travel insurance as a backup for if something happens. Really important. Also, what kind of driving license do you need? We got an international driving license, which is officially for all over Asia, most of the world, valid for 3 years. But keep in mind, the rules in Vietnam are a bit different. If you would like to have a valid driving license in Vietnam, then you need to request one from a Vietnamese office, and they're not so easy to get. So if you have a motorbike, you gotta be able to have a driving license for over the 125cc. Then you are allowed to drive them, but an international drive license, it is valid, but according to the laws of the Vietnamese, it isn't. So it's, yeah, how can I say that? It's a bit in between there. But if you have it and police stops you with it, most of the time they will let you go, or they want to have 1 or 2 euros just for the time. And the driving style in Vietnam, which is really important. This maybe sounds weird, but when you get in Vietnam, there are so many scooters and it's so overwhelming. Also, normally when you see a traffic light, red means stop, green means go, which is obvious. But in Vietnam is red, maybe I stop, maybe I go, and green is just go. So you can never be sure that when they have a red light, they will stop. I think 30 to 40% just cross the red light, which makes driving in Vietnam so dangerous. Also, the roads in Vietnam. It's still Asia that you're in, but most of the roads in Vietnam are really good. But keep in mind, you're in Asia, so if you have a pothole here and there, if there are some holes in the ground, a lot of dirt on the ground, yeah, that happens a lot of times, especially when you go out of the cities and you go driving from city to city. A lot of times you will be driving a really good road for 20-30 kilometers, then you have like 1 kilometer no road, or they're building on the road. You can expect these things, but most of the roads are really good. We have driven from Ha Giang all the way to Phu Quoc, so literally the northern point of Vietnam all the way to the southern point, and 99% of the roads are really good to use. Okay, and now we get to the final part, which is the border crossing. This will maybe be the most exciting and interesting thing to tell you guys about, also because it's so controversial. Border crossings going from Vietnam to Cambodia, Vietnam to Laos, it is still allowed to do that as a foreigner, But keep in mind, there are no rules given from the government that it's officially allowed or officially not. So it's a bit of a gray area that we are searching with it. For example, some borders will refuse you just because it's only for the locals to use as a border crossing. Well, normally you can just get your stamp, go in and go out. But some borders can refuse you, some borders will let you go. It's all depending on the person that is standing behind the desk. That's how cruel it is. We went to a border crossing from Vietnam to Laos, close to Vinh. We got refused at one border point because only the locals could use it. Then we needed to drive around 4 hours to get to another border crossing. In the dark we arrived and we got accepted there. They didn't even ask us anything about the bike. They didn't even ask us anything about the documents. They just laughed at us because they saw two foreigners on a motorbike at night trying to enter. But back to the border crossings, make sure that you look it up which borders do allow motorbikes and which don't. There are some main borders in Vietnam that generally refuse them and some more accept them. Also, always tell that you are planning on coming back to the country, because one of the main reasons they will refuse you is because they are afraid that you are going to sell the motorbike either in Cambodia or in Laos, and they don't really want that. We heard stories of people that got refused one day and they tried the next day at the same border and they got let in. You just gotta be lucky with it. It is still allowed and you're still able to do it, but you need to have some luck on your side. Also, what are the paperwork that you need for the border crossings? You gotta need to have the blue card. You gotta have the buyer's agreement. There is, if you're going to Laos, a D52 form, which is a little small car that you have that you pay like 1 or 2 euros to import your motorcycle to sell it like that. We didn't have it. They never checked us for any documents. Maybe we got lucky with that, or they didn't really care about it. So by now you should be able to know everything that you need to know about buying a motorcycle in Vietnam. Where to look for the motorbikes, what kind of registration do you need insurance, yes or no? Do you need an international drive license? Yes, you're gonna need it. And for the border crossings, you really gotta be lucky, but make sure that you do your homework in time. These are all the 5 main things that you need to know. I really hope this video helped you with making a decision of buying or renting. And if this did help you, or if you did have any more questions, please let us know in the comments. I really also appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I will be doing a lot more travel vlogs around Asia. We've been traveling for over 1.5 years and we have so many great stories to share with you. Yeah, just hit the like button. Really appreciate it, guys. See you next time.